we look at a business in terms of the tender process and we pick out the very best of that business, and we try as best as we can to eloquently put that down on paper and respond to what local authorities are looking for. So that really is testament to the business in Sefton, not to what we do. Okay, I noticed that there's two Kevins on the list today. One gets terrorism and the other gets tendering. So that's the story of my life. Okay, business continuity and risk management through tendering. This very much is about business continuity, isn't it? Because it's about sales, it's about turnover, it's about how do we plug those gaps. What we can't do is get up on Monday morning and decide we want to tender for some work. It's not about that. It's very much about developing a very robust business plan. Terry was talking about that earlier. We need to know exactly what we want to be winning, where that work is coming from during the course of the year, and even year 2 and year 3, if we've got a longer term business plan. Just a couple of expressions, let's get those out of the way first. This is a very simple tendering presentation. PQQ, a pre-qualification questionnaire. Tender is the means by which local authorities procure external work or services. How many people here have actually been involved in a tender exercise for local authority work? Okay, probably just under half. Okay, typical services that a local authority would tender could be anything from major highways work, building work, it could be print, it could be some social services support. And really, in this day and age, local authorities are obviously looking to outsource more and more. So there's great opportunity at the moment, and that's the key word in terms of what this is all about. Okay. How to decide if we should tender? There's pros and cons, there's risks, there's opportunities, there's advantages, there's disadvantages. I've already mentioned it should be part of a well laid out business development strategy. What are the advantages of securing local authority work? The longer term contracts, they tend to be prestigious. It gives us a great opportunity to carry out more business development on the back of winning a local authority contract. We've got very positive throughput of cash. They tend to pay on time. They pay monthly. Who wouldn't want a slice of that cherry? There are risks with tendering as well. I mentioned that we can't get up on Monday and decide we're going to tender for £1 million contract. We need to be plugging gaps and identifying what we want to secure over the next 2 to 3 years. What are the risks? The time taken to look for tender opportunities and the time taken in completing questionnaires, PQQ questionnaires or tender documents, can be days, it can be weeks, depending on the size of the contract. That's a big cost to any business. So we need to think about that. If we don't put sufficient time into a tender submission or a PQQ, what's the risk of that? We're going to fail. We're going to leave an impression on the local authority that we're a weak company. So we need to think about that as a potential risk. Another risk is the risk of winning something and not being ready for it. And that's where business continuity and planning really does come into this particular subject area. We need to know that if we win a contract, we've got the resources to mobilise it effectively and we've got the resources to run it effectively. A lot of doom and gloom about at the moment, as one or two speakers have mentioned this morning. But let's look at some positive news. The government is very SME friendly. It's looking to outsource as much as 25% of all public sector work to small and medium enterprises. That's a good news story, and there's some big figures there as well. There's a white paper issued about 6 months ago called Open Public Service. That laid down a good basis on which the government's commitments to ensure that 25% mark is achieved. And it will also make access to public tenders and opportunities easier. It will make the PQQ, the pre-qualification process, easier. It should make tender opportunities more transparent. Look at the size of the market. Okay, there's been some reductions there. Even if we took 20% off those figures, look at the value of the local authority market in terms of outsourced opportunities. You know, if we were sat in Ireland now, there wouldn't be anything to go at all, because it's, you know, it's virtually dried up in terms of those opportunities. Very few business are winning that work. But, you know, a slice of that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? And still, you know, 40 billion at least could be outsourced per annum in this current period. So where are we going to look for the work? How do we find it? The way we operate is that we, as Earle Consulting, we're scouring the tender markets on a daily basis, looking for opportunities. We're profiling them against our client base. We're profiling them on behalf of Sefton Chamber. And we're making sure that you as businesses and our clients don't miss these opportunities. It's expensive to employ somebody to look at all of this. One location I would point you to is obviously on our own local Northwest portal, which is the Chest. An absolute great resource which all local authorities use. You can just Google it, sign up to it, put it on your desktop and have a look every day. There will be something at some time for most people in this room, I'm sure. And these are winnable, believe me. You know, public sector opportunities are not for somebody else. It's not for big business. It's for businesses like us that are local, that employ local people. And believe you me, Jonathan mentioned the £30 million worth last year. They are for small business. They're for businesses with 10 employees, 20 employees, 30 employees. Very, very winnable. Currently, there's roughly 65 or 70 tender opportunities out there today on the Chest. Just scanning down that list, I would urge you also to look at blue light. We had a bit of a terrorist feel going on earlier. There's some great opportunities on blue light. Merseyside Police, Metropolitan Police. We're tendering on behalf of a client at the moment for restraint barriers in London in the lead up to the Olympic Games. But anybody here in clothing? No? Well, that's a shame. Anybody here supply riot shields? No? Okay. Well, if there anybody that is, Devon and Cornwall Constabulary are looking for a service provider to supply riot shields. Merseyside Police are looking for a supplier for jumpers, believe it or not. Bless. You're not wearing one, are you, Kevin? No.
Only the larger size.
Yeah. Okay. So there's, you know, lots of opportunity out there. Have a look. One thing I would urge you to do is it's absolutely free to download a PQQ document, and that acts as a great benchmark to tell you where you are in terms of the ability to tender for this work. You can download it from the Chest, you can run through it, you can have a look if there are any particular showstoppers that will prevent you from entering this market. Now that also could be part of your business planning as well, because if you're almost tender ready, if you're almost ready to supply those services, but you see one thing there that is actually stopping you from tendering, that's the key area for development, obviously. It might be an ISO accreditation, it might be 9001, it might be 14001, it might be OSAS 18000. I'm sure Jonathan can, Storm Consultancy can certainly help if there are any health and safety gaps in that knowledge. Okay, this really is half a day. We're going to make it a couple of minutes. Some hints and tips. As soon as you get a tender document, have a look to see if there are any showstoppers. Don't spend days on a PQQ or a tender document to get to the end and find you're not compliant. The first thing to do is to make sure it's worth the punt. Then you've got to look for some themes. What are your win themes? What's going to differentiate you from others that are tendering? At PQQ stage, for instance, you might be 1 in 30. If you get through the PQQ stage, you could be 1 in 5. Now, if you get through a PQQ stage and you get the tender documents, the local authority knows you are capable of delivering. So the odds then become very much in your favour. It's at that stage that you need to be picking out the key themes that makes your business different. We'll come on to that in a sec. We need to be thinking about value for money. We need to be thinking about adding value. How are we going to measure our success? Moving further down the line, I'm just jumping around here a little bit, whatever the result of a PQQ is, even if it's a negative response, find out where you have failed, because that is continual improvement that will allow you to do better next time. There's lots of tendering resource out there. There's our business. We work with QTS. Maddie's here as well. They're our support service for when we get too busy. So, please make yourself known to us at the end of this event. And we're happy to add you onto our database, incidentally, and keep those opportunities coming through to you. Whatever your speciality is, I'll guarantee you will find you something in the area that you're looking at. Okay. We okay for time, Jonathan? Minute. Okay. We'll run through this very quickly. I mentioned the win themes. These are typically some of the areas that you're going to be responding to. It all adds up to business continuity. This is nothing that you won't have in a well-prepared business plan. Recruitment, training, supply chain, sustainability, equality and diversity, environmental, waste management, carbon footprint, all of those things, continual improvement, health and safety we've already mentioned, and innovation. These are the key areas that you're going to be responding to in a typical PQQ or tender document. There's nothing more that should be in a business plan, really. What we're finding currently in this climate, in the local authority climate, where the local authorities have no money, they're losing people, is that successful tenderers are currently backfilling some of those issues. Win themes that where we have been particularly successful recently is where we've concentrated on local people, local supply chain, local delivery, reducing transport costs and reinvesting income into the local community. Big themes. Added value. What we're going to bring to the party. How can we do more for less? And that's a key phrase. And finally, efficiency savings. What are we going to deliver that's going to provide more efficiency to the client? How many times do we ask a client, whether it be a local authority client or any of our clients, be them domestic, private or public, what can we do differently to keep this relationship going? Think about that. I've done it again on my final slide. Okay, so that's Earle Consulting. It's a whistle-stop tour through the world of tendering. You can see how it very strongly links to business continuity and risk. It's all about turnover. We've got to plug those gaps. It's got to be planned, and we've got to provide added value, efficiency savings, and keep things local. Thank you for listening.